TV viewers and subscribers, welcome to another episode, and in this one we're going to talk about Coach Steve McLaren and his plethora of excuses. Now, the last game against Trinidad and Tobago, Steve McLaren came out afterwards and he said he rested a few players because he didn't want them to accumulate cards, and in addition to that, missed the final game against Curacao at the National Stadium. Now, what Steve McLaren did by doing that was basically put additional pressure on these players to win the game against Curacao. Curacao has been exceptional throughout this campaign and they've actually beaten the Reggae Boyz already. So going into the game against Jamaica at the National Stadium, that bit of fear factor saying, oh, Jamaica, the Reggae Boyz, best in the region, that's out the window because they've already beaten Jamaica. They've already beaten Jamaica, and the quality of football that they played when they beat Jamaica was very good as well. Can't say the same for Jamaica. The quality of football has been non-existent really. It's been utter rubbish. Coach Steve McLaren looks like he's out of his depth. Doesn't look like he knows anything that he's doing. And for a coach that is as decorated as he is, begs the question. Begs the question. I'm going to get further into that in a few, but remember, smash the like button, subscribe to Halftime TV if you have not yet done so. Also, we're raising funds to support folks impacted by Hurricane Melissa in Western Jamaica. So you can check out the link in the description. It points you to the GoFundMe page, which will get supplies for folks in Lucea, Hanover, which is in Western Jamaica. Now let's get back to it. So Coach Steve McLaren, he said Shamar Nicholson, best striker in the region. Then he goes on to not only bench Shamar Nicholson, but he doesn't give him any minutes whatsoever. Now, imagine, right? Halftime TV here. We fly down to Jamaica and we say, okay, KFC is our preferred meal. Okay, can't wait to get to Jamaica so we can get some KFC, right? First thing I do when I land in Jamaica, I go by Clock in Montego Bay and I buy Tasty. Or I go by Fairview and instead of going to KFC, I go to Juicy Beef and I buy patty. You'll be looking at me and wondering and saying, okay, what's wrong with this guy? What's wrong? Like, all along you've been singing about KFC and the first thing you land in Jamaica, you go buy patty. Make it make sense. And that is the same thing that's happening right here. Coach Steve McLaren is digging himself so deep in this hole that he doesn't know how to come out of it. And instead of solutioning, he's constantly coming up with excuses. Now, we saw it a couple months ago in the Gold Cup. Jamaica awful, worst showing in well over a decade. Kicked out in the first round. And the fans were saying, what is happening with this coach? What is he doing? Again, excuses. He included Mikel Antonio in one of the squads earlier this year instead of Shamar Nicholson. Said Shamar Nicholson wasn't playing enough competitive games. But at the same time, Mikel Antonio was an active pundit. Excuses. So, Coach Steve McLaren, we're getting to the point now where our patience is wearing thin, very, very thin. And although you may very well qualify for the World Cup with this Jamaican team, I want the folks to look on the bigger picture. Look at the bigger picture. The group that Jamaica was in, we're expected to win this group. And yet, right now, we're at a stage where it's basically do or die. Our backs are against the wall. Going into the final game against Curacao. Curacao team that, mind you, has been playing better quality football than Jamaica throughout the entirety. And even if Curacao finishes second, I expect them to go to the playoffs because they're one of the better teams in these qualifiers. But overall, Coach Steve McLaren, I think it's time you cut out the excuses, you solution, because that's what coaches are expected to do. That's what managers are expected to do. You're hired for your ability to come up with solutions to problems, not to constantly be dishing out excuses behind excuses behind excuses. Because you saying you're resting Shamar Nicholson and Kaheem Dixon because you don't want them to accumulate cards for the final game, it does not make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, and it makes it even worse for you because the fans are going to look at you now and say, okay, is this guy even sensible any at all? Is he sensible any at all? But the Jamaican national team and the Jamaicans in general, we need this. We need this. We need this. It's been a rough couple of weeks. It's been a rough month basically for Jamaica. And I think this will be our little glimmer of hope in the midst of the darkness both literally and figuratively speaking, because Jamaica Public Service hasn't restored light in a number of places as yet. But still, we need this glimmer of hope, because right now it's not the best of times for Jamaica. And I think, as football usually does, it brings people together. It brings that feel-good factor. And right now, Coach Steve McLaren, you put us in a position where it didn't have to get here. It did not have to get here. And I think the moment you step away from making excuses and focus on finding actual solutions, then Jamaican football and the Reggae Boyz, they will be better. They will be better both on the day and every time they go out onto the pitch. But they know that their coach is an excuse coach. Right now, as things stand, you're an excuse coach. And I know, had it been any other Jamaican coach, and I say Jamaican coach because I think Heimer Hallgrimson would have been afforded the same bit of credit. Had it been any Jamaican coach, this bit of leniency would not be afforded to them. And that's not me pointing fingers and saying, hey, I don't think Jamaica should hire any foreign coach. I'm basically saying I think the same attitude should be shown regardless of who is at the helm. Football is a result business. You're hired based on the results that you're able to get. And if you're not getting those results, then you should be shown the door. We didn't see anything whatsoever in the Gold Cup. We say, all right, probably it's a little bit early. Let's give him a little bit more time. But what happens now when we get to the final game against Korea? Again, we want Jamaica to win that final game, but it did not have to get to this. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, and we're going to continue the conversation below this video, folks. Let me know what your thoughts are on the number of excuses that Coach Steve McLaren has been coming up with. And mind you, at some point, he's going to grow thin on those excuses. He's going to run out of excuses eventually. He's going to run out of excuses. But hopefully by then, Jamaica has already qualified for the World Cup. But let's continue having those conversations below this video. And don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. Halftime TV here saying, have a wonderful weekend. Look out for the preview for Jamaica versus Curacao. And we'll talk soon.